welcome to another episode of the Weekly Wednesday Warrior here at POW, Card Games and Comics in local Port Ewan, New York. My name is Skylar Hathaway.
I'm Chris Potter.
Sorry for missing last week. We had Easter happen. I'm not much of a celebrator here. Chris was spending time with his family.
Yeah.
We missed out on Batman 134, right?
Something like that, yeah.
It's not 135 yet.
No.
I think 135 is like the big number because I think it might even be a big legacy number in addition.
Yeah.
And we missed out on Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, number 7 as well, I believe. And maybe some other books that are honorable mentions that I can't think of. But here we are this week. We have 4 new books for you. We have Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 that was released this week. We got Phantom Road number 2. We got Little Monsters number 12. And we got Moon Knight 22. Ready to get the show on the road?
Yeah.
Sweet, buddy. Guardians of the Galaxy first. So I got the Scotty Young cover.
I got the one by Marco Cicchetto, the main cover.
And it looks like Marco Cicchetto is going to do the covers ongoing on this series.
That's super awesome.
So, like, not only is the writing team capable and the artist on the inside capable, but even the regular cover artist is a treat to see every single issue.
Yeah.
In fact, to be honest with you, although this Scotty Young cover is absolutely sweet, I don't think I'm going to bother to put it up because it's not what I would have picked. Unfortunately, the shop just didn't have any extra covers here, so I got stuck with the Scotty Young, which is not the worst thing to happen to you.
No.
But Marco Cicchetto is a favorite on the Weekly Wednesday Warrior for sure, so it's a shame that I couldn't share in Chris's revelry over here. But in any case, Guardians of the Galaxy. You want to take the summary for this, Chris?
All right, yeah. So we're kind of putting our money where our mouth is by reading this book, I think, because we've been saying, Marvel doesn't put out anything good, or nothing good, but Marvel has like a very, we read an inconsistent amount of Marvel, because we don't feel like what they put out on the shelf is quality.
Pretty specific. I mean, we do the same thing with DC books, how we think about it too, because, we do Joker and Batman every time it comes out.
Yeah.
We do Moon Knight and Daredevil every time it comes out. Those are probably the 4 best books coming out these days. I don't know that there are better, at least in the superhero realm. Let me cover my bases there.
Let's throw Detective Book Batman, maybe.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. All right, those are probably the 5 best titles that are coming out these days, at least in the realm of superheroes. And so, like, there's a lot of room for indie books, too, and stuff.
Yeah.
But, we're being comic fans of comics for such a long time that it's surprising to us that Marvel and DC aren't the ones that are controlling, the best share of the market. I'd argue that it might actually be, there might be more indie books than there are Marvel and DC books at this point.
And I don't know, like, there's a lot of indie publishers, but another thing I think is Marvel and DC publish a lot of inconsistent books, too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, if you look at a list of all the titles they publish, it becomes, Hawkeye, Rogue and Gambit,
Miss Marvel,
all these random X-Men, Spider-Man miniseries.
Dr. Aphra has a more consistent run than half of Marvel's own characters.
Oh.
Dr. Aphra from Star Wars.
I think we've had 5 Iron Man series, and the same time we've had 2 Dr. Aphra series.
And honestly, only 2 out of 5 of those Iron Man series were worth reading.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Christopher Cantwell series was real good.
Yeah.
But in any case,
what I'm saying is we're trying something new because we want to, see if there's other stuff that Marvel's putting out. We don't want to just blanket statement Marvel is not putting out any more good books. Let's see if they actually are. Let's try some things as they come out. So you're going to see that more often on the Weekly Wednesday Warrior. Well, new number 1s, I think.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was even a subconscious thought that I put forward. I like the team on the book, and so I was willing to give it a shot. In any case, yeah.
So, the book begins, Star-Lord is riding in, very Western style, but on an alien beast.
Alien horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little Rango dude at the beginning of the page, too.
Yeah.
Give me some vibes of that nature. Definitely a cowboy kind of story.
Yeah, they're really building up that space Western motif, and I think it's a really fun visual style. And we're sort of telling a space Western story, too, because the book begins, there's this refugee outpost. These guys are survivors of a Galactus attack. It's the last of their race, and something else is coming, and the Guardians have to get them off planet.
You took a lot more from this than I did. I didn't get that they were refugees of a specific event. Right?
They mentioned
that. Okay.
They do for sure. Yeah. So, the refugees of Galactus, the Guardians are trying to get them off world because they're the last of this planet. This is a refugee planet as a whole. There's a bunch of different races, but they don't have time to get anything off. Something's about to happen. And so we see this race is kind of isolationist, so the Guardians are having a hard time getting them to leave even their settlement, let alone off planet. So they really have to fight their way on, and we sort of introduce the cast of characters as they run into problems in the book.
Was it clear that their intentions from the beginning of the book was that they were even trying to get these people off? Because Gamora's there, she's getting drunk.
Yeah.
Drax is there.
He's not there.
Somewhere.
We see him way later.
Mantis is there having fun.
Yeah.
Nebula
there.
Seems like the only one who's actually on a mission. So maybe there was a mission at first. This is a classic Guardians of the Galaxy style, right? Where there might be a goal, not sure if they're going to complete it, not sure if they even care if they complete the goal. Right. They're trying their best.
There's a great line where they something happens later in the book and they go, 50% completion is good enough for us.
Yeah, that's the Guardians' way.
Yeah. But yeah, as they run into problems, we introduce the members of this current Guardians team. So far, it's only Star-Lord, Gamora, who saves Peter Quill when he's under attack, Nebula, who saves them too in the middle of a firefight.
Maybe twice.
Yeah. We also, like Skylar said, Mantis is just having fun with the race of people. She's dressed as like a saloon worker, just kind of like making them enjoy her with her powers.
Yeah, I'm always confused about her powers.
I am too. Well, because I think we've talked about this before. We're very unfamiliar with the comics version of the Guardians as opposed to the film version. And
everybody is, probably, because that was a nobody book for years and years and years. The team here is the team in the movie.
Yeah.
Minus one or two characters due to the fact comic continuity.
Yeah.
But they're over there. They're attempting, or at least they start to attempt to evacuate these refugees off the planet before they get interrupted by the local street gang, who apparently has kingdom over the entire planet, it seems.
Something like that.
It might be like a gang planet where there's just consistent gang wars and stuff like that. You gotta wonder how these refugees ended up here in the first place. Right. One of my favorite parts of this this book is one of the refugees that we get introduced to first is this little kid alien, and he's praising the words of Star-Lord. He's trying like a New York City crazy man would do. He's on the streets trying to tell you about his Lord and Savior, Star-Lord. And Star-Lord is the first character we get introduced, and he talks to this kid. Kid doesn't realize that it's Star-Lord that he's talking to. Yeah. Later in the book, he's in awe because he sees all of the Guardians at once. There's this great line where he says, where Drax shows up, and he's like, "Drax the Destroyer, son be praised." So it's like this kid is lifting up all of these characters way more than they probably deserve. Yeah. And we're also led to believe that he's the narrator of the book.
Yes.
That in the beginning of the book, he has this great metaphor of some meteors crashing to Earth, but they create a fire that can destroy anything. Something along those lines. And then at the end of the book, we get the narration again, and he reveals that I got to grow up and understand who the Guardians are and stuff like that. So this little kid might be an ongoing character in the run.
Yeah. And another thing about that metaphor, it's kind of them burning up, and it's talking about these characters and how they're sort of alluding they're going to be spit out by the end of this run.
Yeah. Meteors, when they crash, they burn up in fire upon entry into our Earth's hemisphere and stuff, and then what do they become? Dust and rock and foundation for life thereafter. So they might peter out, burn out and stuff, but at least they're laying some decent groundwork for what's to come thereafter. Really solid metaphor to open up the book with.
Yeah, and I think Kelly and Lansing's writing throughout the book is really strong. Yeah,
it's a co-writing team that usually do a bunch of books together. And then on the art, since we're giving credits at the moment, we have Kev Walker, who I know I've seen that dude before. I know I've seen this guy before. I just can't place it. But I have the time to look it up. And then Matt Hollingsworth, who colors half of the titles that we talk about on this show. Yeah. It's him, Rochelle Rosenberg, and Dave Stewart. If they're not coloring the book, Mike Spicer, whenever it
Mike Spicer and
Bond Villain. And Bond Villain. Those are the best colorists in the business right now. And Francesco Francavilla colors his own work. But yeah, we almost finished the summary.
Yeah,
right?
The only thing that happens is right as they're getting these refugees on the planet, something falls down. It's something called group fall, and something happened to Groot in between Guardians runs.
They referred to it like a weather change.
Yes.
Like this, like as if they knew that this was a potential, or it could happen, or if the right people bothered the right thing, it would happen.
Yeah.
They could anticipate this Groot fall on some level.
I think they've been tracking it.
Yeah.
As it comes up. Because it's like, it's a parasite almost. Like, it's Groot is consuming things to become Groot, is the idea of it.
Yeah, he's like a giant fireball.
Yeah.
Which kind of, plays into that metaphor in the beginning of the issue, too, in a way.
And I thought this idea was really fun. Plays into Groot's sort of origins, a Marvel horror monster rather than a superhero.
I hadn't picked up on that. Yeah, that's a cool idea, yeah.
So yeah, that's basically where the issue ends. They get some of the refugees off, not all of them.
Yeah.
They save 50%, which is good enough for them.
One of them, the other 50% of the boxed up civilians that they're trying to save gets literally consumed by Groot.
Yeah.
They even say that they're Groot now. Groot is taking in their essence and making it Groot. Seems like Groot's going to be the ongoing enemy of this run, however long the run may actually be. A couple of things to note that I have. There was a cool double page spread on page 13 where it was like gratuitous action for sure. I'm sure you know exactly what page I'm talking about too, because there were a few double page spreads, but one specifically right in the middle of the book where all the Guardians are together finally, and they're kicking ass and they're taking names. And I'll pull that up and stuff. Yeah. And Gamora is drunk for the entirety of the issue, to our knowledge. Yeah. And at the end of the issue, she's passing a bottle between her and Drax. Yeah. And the bottle's huge. It's like the size of Drax's torso. So when it's got a little like a festival straw stuck into it, like you'd see it like Coachella or something like that. It's pretty humorous. It's interesting to see different sides of characters. So, in Marvel Comics, I can't say that they're going to make an effort to turn any of their characters into characters that aren't relatable or anything like that. Right. And, I guess, more adults are reading comics these days, so it's probably more socially acceptable that one of our main characters is an avid drunk. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't necessarily put this one to kids, maybe. No. Just because of, there are some shoddy personalities here. They might not necessarily be good people. They might not necessarily be people you even want to emulate because they're
very dysfunctional.
In a way, a collection of failures that work better together.
Yeah.
Which is the Guardians of the Galaxy that we at least know and love. And this book is very Guardians of the Galaxy. Very much copy and paste of the rhythm of the movies and stuff. Like unsettled jokes that are actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Star-Lord cracking most of them, but even Drax getting a one-liner in here and there and stuff. Yeah. My serious complaint would be the lack of Rocket Raccoon, but I understand that I think he died maybe a year ago or something like that. There was a whole run of Guardians where it was the death of Rocket, and neither me or Chris read that stuff. No. But I think the last Guardian stuff that I read, and I didn't read all of it, was the Cates run on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and he was sick throughout that whole run.
So I'm looking forward to going back and maybe doing some research into what's going to happen in regards to Rocket, because comic characters don't stay dead. No. And he's on the cover of this Scotty Young cover, which doesn't always mean something, but Scotty Young usually gets some level of directive from the art team when he does the covers and stuff. Yeah. So he always puts a joke on the front of it. And so
always a joke at the book's, not expense, but content. Yeah,
content, context, or plot. And so I would not be surprised if this is some sort of foreshadowing for Rocket's return at some point. Yeah. What did you think of the book overall, Chris?
I had a lot of fun reading this book.
Yeah, and it was there for fun, for sure.
I thought it was really new reader friendly. That's something we talk about with #1 issues. I feel like they introduce... I feel like with Guardians of the Galaxy, more than most books, it's emulating the movies to some extent. So people who are only familiar with the Marvel version or the Marvel movie version of these characters, their personalities are still recognizable, and who aren't recognizable, they introduce them in a way where you get what they're going for. Right? Yes. Mantis is really different from a movie version, but you figure it out throughout the issue, and you're like, okay. Yes. This is this version of the character.
And she still seemingly has some relationship with Drax, too.
Yeah, they're playing off that film relationship a lot.
Yeah.
Even her personality, even though she has different powers, it's more like her movie version.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I thought this was a lot of fun. The fact that the writers can fit any level of like metaphor or theme or anything into this book is a treat for me because I wasn't expecting that. I know what a Guardians book is,
Yeah.
even though I don't read them all the time. I know what to expect from that. And this one, not too far past expectations, but a little bit. Far enough that I can appreciate the writers and where they're taking the book and where they're coming from before this book. Solid art, right?
Oh, yeah.
Kev Walker did some, I'd call really almost traditional Marvel-style comic book art.
Yeah.
I saw like a little bit of like Chichetto in some of his lines, I'd say. I saw a little bit of like inspirations from people that have come and done Marvel comics before him, maybe even Guardians comics before him. It's nothing crazy.
No,
it's nothing
very solid,
different. But I'm sure that when they were trying to figure out an artist for it, they didn't want to put somebody that would be similar to like Mike Mignola or Bill Sienkiewicz on a title like Guardians.
Right.
You're gonna want somebody with like
kind of bubbly, fun.
Yeah, like
cartoony.
Yeah, I don't have any better examples. So Kev Walker was a solid pick.
Yeah.
And I like Matt Hollingsworth's edition in colors. He's did a good job.
He can handle sci-fi stuff too. The ships and everything looked good.
Yeah.
The settlement that he designed looked nice.
Yeah, Groot looked scary.
Yeah.
They killed people in the issue, so that's pretty graphic. There's a couple things. My last two notes. One is the cool panel borders. Did you see the way that he like manipulated the panels? Like he wouldn't even use all of the white space on a page, but he would make interesting readability out of the panels and stuff, which is cool. And then there was a line in here that was eerily close to Star Wars, and I would not be surprised considering the writers I have met are definitely nerds first. And the line is, "You'll never make it past the first mount." Well, he doesn't say first mount, but in Star Wars, it's "You'll never make it past the first marker." And it's a moment in Star Wars where Han Solo could potentially die going to look for Luke Skywalker, and this is a similar situation where the Guardians could potentially die going past the mount that they're going to handle the Groot fall or whatever.
Right.
And then at the end of the issue, they make a reference to the coming of Groot's space. I don't know what that implies.
I guess just as Groot consumes more, he's gonna like have a system of planets. They're all Groots.
Yeah, so this could get really big and
Yeah.
scary. This could get to Galactus levels and stuff. So I don't know if I'm in it for the long haul yet, because I will admit that I have a pretty high bar when it comes to reading comic books, just because of like I need to micromanage my time appropriately.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed this book, but I don't know if I'm down for 50 issues. And it doesn't look like it's slotted for anything specific as of yet.
Yeah.
So who knows how long this will actually go on. If this is only like a 6 or 12 series, I might be down immediately, just because I've seen what this team, or at least these writers, have been able to do with that amount of time in a comic book, and they can accomplish a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know how much I expect from the longevity of this series. I think the Cates run and both the Ewing runs were like 12, 14 issues.
Yeah.
So,
which is a good number. I'd be satisfied with that number.
You get your story out there, you explore a portion of the galaxy, carve your own mark on these characters.
Yeah. You got anything to leave off on here, Chris?
No, I enjoyed this book, but it's like nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's the first book we're doing, which usually implies that the books that are coming after it are, I don't like saying the word better, but I don't have a better word to put here, so we're going to use the word better.
Okay.
Moving right along?
Sure.
We got Phantom Road, number 2. Chris doesn't have his copy. It's coming in late from Diamond. We'll put the onus on Diamond there. Diamond comic distributors can do a better job. If you know anything about comic retail, I don't need to tell you. But Phantom Road number 2 was a great book. We got Jeff Lemire back, Gabriel Walta, I think his first name's Gabe. Yeah, it's on the cover there. Yeah. And Jordi Belair. And I'm even going to give some credits to the letterer Steve Wands, because he's credited for letters and design.
Oh.
And if you read this book, there's a lot of design in this book.
Yeah.
Like the like certain pages where they're showing just the road to like break up the portions within the chapter. Or even just when you open up the page, when you open up the book, the first page has a really cool layout for credits and stuff. Makes it look really pretty. And there are more colors in the design pages than there are in the entirety of the comic book.
Yeah.
Or at least darker colors, more pop-out colors. The colors in this book they look like faded or dull, you know, and there's totally a purpose to this on top of that. I'll do a summary here real quick. I think I can do it pretty quick, too. So, last issue, for a lack of better word, and obviously where this book is going, our main characters got put on a phantom road, a road that exists between our reality and something else. We're not even sure. And that really gets addressed in this issue because they're driving down this road. They have no way to exit this phantom road, so might as well keep on trucking.
Yeah.
And they come across a truck stop on the phantom road, but it's surrounded by a bunch of these white, weird zombies that were in the last issue that the main character had beaten the crap out of.
Yeah.
And so they pull into the truck stop just to see what's up, and the zombies don't bother them. They come to the conclusion that there's some sort of barrier at this truck stop that the zombies just can't cross. So they feel pretty safe. They park the truck. They have this item in the truck that they picked up that had caused the accident for our secondary supporting character.
Right.
And they leave it in the truck. Both of them have this like eerie feeling about them that it will be safe as long as it's in the truck.
Yeah.
Like the truck is some sort of like church or something like that. What's it called when somebody's looking for there's a word when you're looking for like a safe place to be. Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Truck is like a sanctuary. So they go into this truck stop and they come upon the dude wearing the Hawaiian shirt that was whistling a tune in the bathroom from the last issue. And he's kind of got like a villain thing going to him. I'm not sure how or why, but he's just got like a menacing looking face. He's also dulled and grayed.
He's always grinning, I feel like.
Yeah,
He's very happy about the situation, and we know the situation, so we're off put by that.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's worried at all, whereas our main characters don't know what's happening, are lost, maybe dead.
Yeah.
And so they address these things when they meet this dude in the Hawaiian shirt, and the dude in the Hawaiian shirt just tries to get them to calm down so that he can explain a couple things on a like relatively civilian manner, which is tough to people that think that they may be dead. But he manages to calm them down, maybe even a little forcefully. And he starts to describe like what's going on, what the Phantom Road is, where they're at. He uses salt to do so. He puts like a couple of lines. I'll pull that image up over here.
Yeah.
Puts like a couple of lines on the dining room table, and he explains like, oh, this line is our reality. This line is where you're at. And over here is the stuff in between. I thought it was cool because he's using table salt, which is white. And a lot of the borders and a lot of the background in this book are all white. And it seems like there's this maybe a good versus bad kind of thing going on, or just like a darks versus lights kind of thing going on in regards to the stylistic impression of the art. Both the last issue and this issue opened up the same in regards to there are some panels going down the middle, kind of like yellow lines on a road, and then on either side is white borders. Big white borders, nothing in it. And it's also they're encapsulations of what happens later in the book in addition to that, which is a cool way of getting the reader excited of what's going to happen in the comic itself. So pretty great way to like open this book and like keep your reader entertained. The readability is very easy. I had trouble taking a moment to look at the art because of how driving the story was. I've used the word trucking and driving so far. I'm not punning on purpose. But so they meet this guy. This guy explains what's going on. The supporting character loses her crap. She exits the thing and she goes out. She sees something in the window, and it's reality. And she's like, "Oh, great, reality! I'm leaving." She leaves. She goes outside. It's Zombieland all over again.
Yeah.
She's like, "This is BS," and she goes back in. She checks the window. The real people aren't there anymore. She addresses our main character, and it's like, "I'm not crazy, right? You saw the same thing," and he did.
Yeah.
They start talking about like what they should do from here, where they should go, and she's like, I can't handle this. I don't even care if I'm gonna go and just like walk the Phantom Road or whatever. I'm done." So she exits again, and she gets lucky this time. She exits into our actual reality.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's back home and everything's fine. And our main character is standing at the doorway, trying to get her to come back because they seemingly need to do this kind of thing to them together. Which was another thing that the guy in the Hawaiian shirt had explained is, this might be some mission from God. I'll reference Blues Brothers here because that's one of my favorite movies. In that movie, they say, we're on a mission from God, like multiple times. And so this is where they're at, is they're on a mission from some sort of higher power.
Yeah.
I have to assume it's probably God because of the constant reminder that this dude is definitely some level of religious with the Jesus piece hanging in his window in so many panels. So this supporting character runs out of this truck stop, is in reality, she gets to this other side of the road of the truck stop, she falls and like starts becoming deathly sick at exponential speeds. And our main character runs out and is dragging her by the foot away from the like side of the road, and she's like clawing at the road in a way, and that's the piece of how the book opened up, is that scene of her like dying in a way.
Yeah.
So our main character pulls her in and explains that he started to get sick as soon as he ran after her, but he had to go and grab her, otherwise he knew she wasn't going to make it. So both of them are kind of screwed. It looks like they're slated for this mission. They have to get this thing that's in the truck wherever it needs to go. The dude in the Hawaiian shirt explained that they just need to drive east, and they'll eventually hit a place that's called I wrote it down. Hold on. Bear with me. Golgotha, which can't profess that I know a lot about Christianity here, but I have watched Dogma, which was a Kevin Smith movie, and and the Golgotha is supposed to be this demon made of poop that is, and it's specifically made from the excrement of all the people that they killed during the time of Jesus Christ. That people would evacuate their bowels after they died, and so this demon was made out of the bad spirits that were exiting the body upon death. Okay. In this case, they're going to the actual place, Golgotha, I suppose where the killings of these people had happened, that this demon is actually named after. So there's another line that comes straight out of Christianity. Again, pouring on the themes that like this truck is some level of sanctuary, that these these people are missionaries of God, and that they're on a mission to bring this holy thing to its home. There's a lot of like Christianic theme going on here. You got anything to add to the summary before I finish it up?
Just one. Something like we kind of elaborate more on why the girl is so much more distraught than the guy. We learned that the person that was killed in her car was her fiance, and they were like just going to get married. So she's going through a lot right now as of the time that this mission is beginning. And again, going on the theme of Christianity, if we are going the sort of religious holy quest, taking away someone's spouse, very Old Testament God thing sort to do.
Yeah, I hadn't put that together. That's a good point. There's a joke in there that they make about how the truck stop is a Billy Bear truck stop, and the Hawaiian guy's like, there are certain places on the Phantom Road that kind of bridge the gap between reality and the Phantom Road.
Right.
And the woman is like, Billy Bear truck stops? And the guy doesn't deny it. He's like, yeah, that's one of them. Like, kind of like the Billy Bear Corporation has a monopoly on
religious
places,
like places in between,
religious ley lines. Basically. So that was a pretty good joke, and there isn't a lot of things to laugh at in this comic book.
No, it's very dire.
So really, really well placed humor.
One thing I will say about if we are going in a Christian direction, I think we're supposed to feel off about that because of the last issue, these things walking around, the thing they're carrying. It's not very biblical. They're all very almost Lovecraftian.
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna
like
say,
a horror makeup.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe even there's a movie called Golden Child with Eddie Murphy in it, where he's tasked to bring this golden child from one place to the other and protect it in the process. And there's no Christianity in that. The golden child is of Asian descent,
right?
And the whole movie's about like Asian culture and stuff like that. So I think Jeff Lemire might just be pulling from many religions.
And again, if this is some sort of higher power, maybe he's just playing to our main character's knowledge of religion because he is a Christian. And that's why we're using all these Christian like metaphors and imagery.
Yeah. Would you say that this is one of the most subtle horror titles you've ever read?
Yeah.
It's, It's like not. It's really not trying to.
It's
pour
really
it on
atmospheric.
Yeah.
I feel like you're uneasy while reading it, but it's not trying to scare you. Really, it's trying to get you in a mood.
Yeah, almost like a slow burn thriller.
Yeah.
Or horror. I'm really enjoying the pacing. You could read this book really fast, but if you wanted to look at the lines, which are often chaotic, I don't know if there are any straight lines in the whole book. Even, again, I'm going to make a point that the actual borders of the panels are shaky as well. And maybe that's just a Walta thing, but I think I made a point to take a look at the Vision book that he had done not too long before this, and those are straight lines, tough straight lines. So I like that. Clearly, they're trying to build this, like, this may not even be happening. If the panels are vibrating and shaky, this may all just be a figment of both of their mutual imaginations. Maybe they're both knocked out at this incident, this accident, and maybe this is like a shared dream that they're having. Odd things happen in the world. It wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
You got anything to add? So the last couple pages, finish out the summary here. They've co-signed to doing this mission because it looks like they don't have any other choice.
Yeah.
They look to go back to the truck, and there is one of the zombies comes out of nowhere. And this is in reality, too. Comes out of nowhere and attacks our main characters. The main character takes down the zombie. We flip the page, and there's a beautiful Sin City Frank Miller looking page that really shows the whites against blacks. It's just white on black page. I'm going to pull it up. And then you flip the next page, and it's sirens and cops coming to the truck stop. Don't know how, don't know why, don't know how they found out that anything is going on, or why they're even coming, but it's more than one cop.
Yeah.
And they're coming down. And the page, the splash page that was black and white, showed that the zombie that the main character had just taken care of was a dude when he hit the ground, a naked guy. So now our main character may have just killed someone. And there are cops on the way. And the main character's like, we gotta go. And then that's the way the book ends, which is a great cliffhanger for the next issue. And I'm really excited to continue to read this, because I think they're really nailing this title. Yeah, you got anything else there, Chris?
No. I really have been enjoying this book.
What are your theories on the thing that they've got to bring to Golgotha?
I don't really even remember what it looks like. I remember it looking like alien. I really thought they were on some sort of alien world when the last issue ended.
Yeah.
So that's completely out of the picture now. They actually explain what's happening.
Yeah, exactly what's going on.
So I have no room to speculate. I just... Whatever it is, it's horrific to some extent, or at least unsettling. Yeah,
to me,
it might be some kind of egg.
That's possible. To me, it looked like I would say more like a cocoon.
Yeah.
Maybe. To me, it resembles like a stone animal that's sleeping. I feel like I keep seeing like appendage-looking things or eye-looking things. Just the way that this thing is rendered, and it's rendered very weird. I'd also say that it looks like it might even be growing, because in the first time we saw it, it was like upside down. It looked like it had like a rib cage flowing out of it or whatever. Yeah. In this, it looked way more peaceful. It was like relaxed in the truck wherever they had it and stuff. Didn't look as like horrific, clawy, disformed, disfigured kind of thing. It was very subtle.
And maybe the only reason it looked disfigured is because the girl character ran it over last year.
Yeah,
so it's totally healing to some extent.
And this could be me just imagining things, or maybe me reading the art incorrectly. But that's just what I'm gaining from. I think this title is one of the better ones that are coming out these days. Jeff Lemire really knows how to write comics. I was talking to Chris before the show started about how I like Lemire's titles, but I don't always like him when he's drawing them. It seems like the guy really shines when he knows that he's got an artist that can do a certain thing, and then he can play to those artists' capabilities, which is really what makes a good comic book writer at the end of the day. You can write a great script, could be the best script ever written, but if you hand it off to an 8-year-old child to draw, my point is totally there. So these are capable people writing a capable book, writing a capable story. That,
playing to each other's strengths, too.
Absolutely, and which brings us very smoothly straight into Little Monsters, issue 12. Moving right along. I'm going to show this cover real quick. Little Monsters is on issue 12 now, and issue 12 is usually an issue where comics wrap up.
Yeah.
This issue concluded.
But it didn't conclude it.
But there's another issue after this issue.
Yeah.
So, do you want to summarize this one? I took the last one, so.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
It is. Okay, so
Starts
I don't
off
know
with
a lot of these
Finn.
characters. Yeah, I remember. I don't have as much context as you do.
Ask
But
me
we're with
sure.
There's this like hunter character that's been hunting the little monsters
Finnick.
and his kid. Finnick and his kid.
I don't remember what the girl's name is.
Yeah. And
the kid is. It's not Finnick's kid. It's one of the vampires that he had captured.
no, he's
earlier
with
in
the
story.
vampire, but he has a human girl with him.
The girl is the one that got saved from the vampires.
Yes, but she was like she likes them.
She meets Finnick at the end of the last issue.
Okay.
And then they start talking about what Finnick's going to do in this issue. But she's his niece.
Okay.
Is the relation.
Right. So they're with one of the little monsters, and his Finnick's niece is trying to convince him to let this little monster go. Don't hurt these kids. You know, she's been around them, I guess, since the start of the series, and has kind of become acclimated to them.
Fill in a hole here. It was like 3 or 4 issues of them establishing who the little monsters are and like what they do and things like that.
Yeah.
Issue 4, that's when like these humans traverse into the city and they get killed pretty quickly.
Okay. And they've been helping with this girl since then.
And then 4 or 5 issues later, this girl manages to escape because of Yuki and Lucas, who are the better Yuki, Lucas, and Romy, who are the better of the little monsters that decided not to eat human blood and stay sober and stay pure and help this little girl out who needed it because all the other little monsters were trying to kill her and eat her.
Yeah. And because the little monsters are now suspicious of humans, they don't like them. Probably because of what they did to the world. There's some post-apocalyptic sort of thing going on.
I'm sensing like a further theme too, where these are kids. Still, they're adults in kids' bodies, but they have so many
They haven't developed
them.
too.
Certain things just haven't developed. So I don't know that they have an appreciation for life because the life that they have had has been ongoing and seems eternal.
Right.
This is all there is.
And they do have this inherent hunger for what they humans too.
So they may not fear death as much as a normal human does.
Right.
And so to kill another thing may not seem as big of a problem just because they have never considered what death really is. But yeah, Chris is right along. They restart out with these humans and stuff, and they're discussing what they're gonna do to these little monsters.
He's there was the flashback of them setting traps. I was gonna say he's setting traps. He's already set all his plans.
He's put out some. I don't even know if they bothered to show us that he went through the effort of like putting together.
They
all
show a
these
flashback of someone putting the traps together, so we kind of get it as the story goes on.
So
that flashback is related to what's happening in the present.
In the beginning,
but we don't actually see it.
Yeah, in the beginning of every Little Monsters issue, there is a flashback. That's how he opens up every issue. And it's usually centered about a specific character.
Yeah.
This usually the little monsters.
Yeah.
This may have been the first break to that. The focus of the flashback was on this hunter guy, Finnick.
Right.
And it's when Finnick was a young boy and he was being taught how to hunt by his father.
How does that trap specifically? He's getting these rabbits.
Yeah, the father tries to tell him to work smart, not animalistically. It's what humans have over animals. So it's what humans have over their prey more accurately. And one of the probably most important lines in the comic is that his father calls him a natural-born hunter at an age where you probably want to emulate your father. He's probably your hero. Right. And here's this man paying you such a huge compliment. Finnick probably proceeded to live that life for the rest of his life up until now.
Yeah. And so,
he set up some traps. The little girl sort of fights back against the hunter and gets the vampire kid out of there. Frees the kid that Finnick has had in his
runs
control
away
for
with
issues now. Yeah. does the little girl run with them? Oh, yeah. She tries to go and warn the little monsters that this hunter dude is coming.
Yeah, and one of the bad vampire kids wants to kill her, but they're with Lucas and Yuki.
And Romy.
Yeah, they meet up with Romy. Romy's not there yet. Romy's still drawing. Romy's doing her thing on the edge of the city. They are doing their thing on the edge of the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the little girl attempts to warn them, but they can smell the humans, and that's where the last issue had ended. Is they could smell that there are humans not too far away.
Yeah.
So the hunter was slowly progressing towards them, set up all these traps, probably left his aroma in the area and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so these little monsters now have congregated to figure out what they're going to do. And Yuki and Lucas is there too, and they're getting mad at each other and they're yelling at each other. But Lucas is trying to hold it all together, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to make sure that these kids don't lose what they've built for such a long time. Mm. And in the process of this argument, some of them get killed, right?
Yeah. They start getting killed by this group of hunters.
Just the one hunter.
Is it just him?
It's just him. So the importance of that flashback was to show that this man is a hunter, yes, but he's a smart hunter.
Right.
He had gone and put in all of these traps around the specific area.
To congregate.
Probably left his aroma there on purpose even, and we find out is hiding in the background there. We see the death of two of the main characters in the book, which is... I'm forgetting their names.
Very unceremoniously, too. They die in like a panel, and we have to just move on from it because we're in such a dire situation.
It's two panels. One of them gets crushed by a giant rock, a boulder, and then the other one gets shot with a bunch of wooden stake arrows through many parts of her body. And this thing absolutely enrages what I would call the main evil little monster, who I can't remember the name of. The only reason I can remember Yuki and Lucas's name is because they've spent quite a bit of time on them in these past couple issues. Right. I want to say that the little girl who's not a little monster's name is Naomi, now that I'm thinking about it. I could be wrong on that. But in any case, two little monsters dies. This enrages the rest of them, but Lucas is trying to get them to not act animalistically and think about this, and this could be a lot worse. Let's take what we have and get out of here. And what happens to Lucas? He gets hit with a molten cocktail and gets set on fire. And then the book ends. Literally ends, says concluded.
Yeah.
So this issue sped by super fast. It took me maybe tops 5 minutes to read. Tops. And oftentimes I will complain if a book doesn't hold my attention for very long. This held my attention for every second that I was reading the book, because I'd say that all of these books so far have been pretty easy reads, right? The Little Monsters books, I mean, and quick reads. This one was the quickest so far, just because this is an issue 12. This is Turning Point. We're trying to end this series now. We need to move this story along. Yeah. Doesn't even feel forced. This feels like exactly where it needed to be.
We've been setting this up for a bunch of issues.
For such a while.
Even as someone who hasn't been reading the story, the last issue felt like we were moving towards this conclusion. Or concluding event.
Yeah. And seeing Lucas on fire is such a powerful image, because he's really been like the best of us throughout the entirety of the series so far. I really hope that they don't kill this character off in like classic horror movie, kill the good character that you want. I really don't even have a lot of notes here. So again, we'll name the creative team is Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen, and Steve Wands. Steve Wands gets letter credits and design credits, and there is a lot of design in this book on top of that. I love that it looks like Jeff Lemire. And at Image, you can pretty much do whatever you want as long as you have proven yourself to be capable of selling a book. Yeah. There's like a training area we can call Skybound for people that aren't as confident, but once you leave Skybound, you're at regular Image, you get to do your own thing. So I'm under the impression Jeff Lemire's making all the calls, up to and including his boy Steve Wands doing letters. And I think Jeff Lemire wanted to give this guy more opportunity to work, so he's doing the design in both of these books that are coming out of Image that Jeff Lemire is doing. And Steve Wands is doing a good job on design. Both of these books have some really heavy design elements that I appreciate.
And they look really great.
They look really great. Holy cow, man. I know I use this term pretty often, but masters of their craft for sure.
Mm-hmm.
These guys know comics. These guys have been working in comics for years and years and years, have built up a resume to show how far they've come and where they are and why they belong and what they're doing. Dude, comic book people don't make a lot of money.
No.
I feel bad in a way because I'm sure that a lot of this stuff is going under the radar of the people that should be reading it. Like, horror is a pretty big driving factor of pop culture right now.
Yep.
Even in comics, there's a lot more horror comics than there have been in years. And both of these books are like perfect forms of horror in a way because they're juggling with things that seem innocent, that seem fine, that seem like regular life, but they're slowly like bringing into the most horrific aspects of those various things.
Right.
Super cool.
It is great.
And then, like, with this one, I have a note that says Pixar-ish, which I think you made that correlation, like, a couple, like, last issue or the issue beforehand.
Yeah, he has a very animation-esque art style.
Dustin Nguyen is doing, like...
Cell-shaded, too. He's really only using one shadow tone.
Pixar should hire this guy and pay him Pixar money, because he deserves it. This guy's...
Just let these two make a next Pixar movie.
Yeah, let's see Little Monsters by Disney. I'm sure that would fire fine. Moves fast. Lucas is dead. We mentioned the natural born killer thing. It's Pixar-ish. This cover is great too. I'll even pull up the cover over here so I don't have to lift this up. There's this like infinity image and a bunch of people surrounding it with blood on their face except for the human who doesn't have any blood on their face. You know, if you see this on a comic book wall, just because of how cool the image on the cover is, I wouldn't be surprised if you're interested in picking it up.
Right.
You got anything to leave off on here, man?
Yeah, I think talking about people not reading this book or not seeing it as prevalent, I think maybe not a problem, but something people do with Jeff Lemire books is trade weight a lot because they are very much a self-contained like story.
Sure.
They're very they're not meant to be read in completion, but they work best. I feel like read at once. So,
But
I hope this book gets the recognition it deserves.
But how good are these cliffhangers?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
he's definitely doing a lot to drive the monthly reader reading this book.
Right. Like, a perfect comparison would be Tom King and Jeff Lemire, right? Tom King, we know, does long-form comic books all the time and writes them all at once to our knowledge.
For sure he does.
Tom King has good cliffhangers, but he doesn't...
Sometimes you fall off his books waiting for it to wrap up. I feel like especially in the middle of a Tom King book, it loses some of the momentum the start has and the end has because he's writing it like
story
something you're gonna read, almost like a movie where you're gonna watch it all in one sitting when you're not gonna read a comic in one sitting, or
not
at least
first.
as it's coming out, because you gotta wait month to month to month for each issue to come out.
Yeah. And I'm not complaining about Tom King's way of his writing. What I'm saying is Lemire knows comics.
Yeah.
I'd argue more than Tom King knows comics.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe Tom King understands building an epic, maybe, a little bit more than Jeff Lemire. Because I wouldn't go as far as to say that Little Monsters is an epic. Phantom Road doesn't feel like it's becoming an epic. But I could say, like, probably 75% of the stuff Tom King has written were these epic tales of characters that are going to change them going
I feel
forward.
like with, like, what I think of when I think of epic Tom King stories, like the Superman stories, and I think those are very Odyssey-esque stories, which adds to the epicness of them.
Yeah.
They have that sort of Greek epic feel.
Yeah, even his long Batman run was that kind of a story, too. Tom King's clearly a fan of books, probably.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't...
What got him into comics was he wrote a superhero book that has nothing to do with comics. Or not nothing. It has a lot to do with comics. It's a superhero book, though. Okay. It's not a comic at all.
And then I guess eventually Sheriffs of Babylon
Yeah.
after that. So, man, these books are so good. I feel like I'm doing them a disservice by not having more stuff to say about these titles.
Yeah.
But really, why I don't have anything to say is because you just can't chew something apart like this when it's exactly what you're looking for. And is perfect in its format and what it's doing.
Like, we might spend more time on a World's Finest book, but that's not because that World's Finest book is better. We just end up having more to talk about sometimes because it's something we don't like.
Or because
there are more elements to talk about.
And there's more expectations going in. Whereas with indie titles, there's next to no expectations other than you know the creative team.
You want to see how this team delivers the story as opposed to how is Mark Waid what's he gonna do with Batman and Superman? You know those characters as opposed to would know none of these characters. You know none of these characters going in.
Yeah. So you haven't read a lot of the prior issues. Do you think once this book wraps up, you might actually go back and reread the entirety of it? It's so good. It's so good. Moving along.
Yeah.
All right, we're already at our final book here, which is Moon Knight issue 22, which we both have cover for. He's got the Cappuccio cover. I've got the... I don't even know, to be honest with you. I should have looked into this, but I really like this cover. I pull as many of the variants as I can. I'll pull this out and try to figure out who did this variant cover quick. But the main team is Jed MacKay, Alessandro Cappuccio, and Rochelle Rosenberg, who you are going to hear me compliment over and over and over and over again as we go through this. So the variant covers are this. You'll get a laugh out of this. There's two of them, right? Okay. This is going to be tough for us to figure out, right?
All right.
Tom Riley or Alex Ross. Okay. This is definitely an Alex Ross cover. Obviously, just kidding. It's a Tom Riley cover.
You really phoned that one in.
That's pretty funny. I wonder what the Alex Ross Moon Knight cover looks like now.
It's probably sweet and also like a 1 in 50.
We gotta go look this up later now. This is issue 22 of Moon Knight, but this is really issue 1 of Tigra.
Yeah.
This is a Tigra book. This is not a Moon Knight book. So I'm going to do a summary of this book as quick as I possibly can. Starts off with the Midnight Man, who is a longtime villain of Moon Knight. Very long time villain of Moon Knight, and showed up multiple times in the course of Moon Knight history. And he's terrorizing a bunch of rich people, not killing anybody, but taking their money.
Yeah.
And Mark is hanging out with Tigra and her kid, and they're watching some VHS tapes, trying to bring back some better times from Tigra's childhood, and trying to teach her kid that, this is how you should properly watch a movie and stuff.
Right, or at least it's how she did, so let's enjoy this together.
Yeah, enjoy the experience together, nostalgic and reminiscent and stuff.
There's a good joke around this period of time that another reason they don't use CDs because their claws scratch it up all the time. And as such, and their floors are all scratched up. There's a lot of good humor throughout this book. We'll touch on a couple times.
Right. Mark Spector, being a rich guy, is going to ask questions like, "Why aren't you using modern technology and stuff?" Yeah. And she even goes to say that she's on an Avengers budget and that she can't really afford a secondary Avengers budget.
Right.
And that she can't afford all of the things. She makes cuts where she can, and one of those cuts is buying VHSs for next to nothing.
Yeah.
But it also brings that nostalgia back. So Mark kind of leaves her alone about it, and they change subjects to talk about the Midnight Man, which Mark has no interest in talking about.
Yeah, he's very laissez-faire about it.
This kind of bothers Tigra, and so Tigra, after Mark leaves, goes on her own research. She goes and does her own research. And one of the things she does is she goes to talk to Hawkeye and maybe for some background on why Moon Knight might not be trying to face down the Midnight Man.
Right.
And Hawkeye tries to say that every hero has weak moments and stuff, and maybe this is one of Moon Knight's weak moments, is that he doesn't want to do the right thing in this situation, which drives Tigra to go and do the right thing here, right? And they also reference that Hawkeye had some trouble in a book called
that's 4 years old.
Hawkeye Freefall, because Hawkeye hasn't had another run in 4 years.
And hasn't been important in anything either.
No. But that's
Jason Aaron isn't throwing him in this Avengers book.
And that Hawkeye book is totally worth your read by Rosenberg and Schmidt. You were saying,
yeah, Otto Schmidt.
Only like 5 issues, too.
Yeah, really strong. A lot of great appearances by other characters. Art's consistently great. I really enjoyed that.
So Tigra goes on to do some research. She goes and steals Tony Stark's Wi-Fi at Stark Tower because she can climb a skyscraper no problem. And she finds out, she's drawing some correlations between the people that are being robbed by the Midnight Man. And those correlations is that, I don't remember what the correlations are.
They all belong to
a mafia
group,
or something
but
like
it's
that.
not, she doesn't pick up on the right correlation, but enough where she can stake out the next location.
And so she does, and
there's the Midnight Man casing out the place, or maybe just leaving, robbing it.
Yeah, he's doing his thing, and she goes and she confronts the Midnight Man. And right before she does, there's this great page that she has some awesome narration that I'm going to pull out this book just to read from.
Sweet.
Because I'm really impressed at how well they put this together. She says, as she's approaching the Midnight Man, "In this moment, I'm every pair of eyes early humans saw reflecting firelight from the darkness. Every set of ivory teeth spotted with the blood of anything that didn't have the good sense to hide away at night. Every roar in the dark, every hooked claw, every bloody muzzle In this moment, I am Tigra, the werewoman, and I have my prey. She takes down this shoddy-looking Midnight Man with the worst Midnight Man costume I've ever seen in my life. It turns out to be Mark Spector, who probably literally put this together with rags and whatever he had extra.
Right.
Mark Spector's been lying to everybody this entire time and hadn't told anybody that he was literally robbing villains blind in order to support the Midnight Mission that he's been running for 22 issues.
What was the group called? The Collective?
The Committee.
The Committee. He's been robbing the heirs to the Committee's fortune. You know, people who used to belong to the Committee. Because I believe most of the Committee's dead. I remember that in the Charlie Houston run, he runs them all over with this Moon Knight plan.
Yeah, Moon Knight kills most of the Committee, but those that are left are the heirs of those people that he's robbing. And these are the villains that have been terrorizing Werewolf by Night, also known as Jack Russell, for such a long time.
Yeah.
And Moon Knight has had crossovers with Jack Russell a bunch of times, and it's usually about and around the Committee. So she talks to Mark on this rooftop after he's done casing the place, basically, and she's losing her crap. She breaks down because she's being lied to. Her only friend that she's been depending on for now, issues and stuff. She even turncoated on the Avengers for the guy. Is now lying to her and using her as a tool, basically, even though she's supposed to be a friend of his.
Yeah.
She's not a fan. She tells Mark that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him, and she asks Mark if he even realizes how difficult it is to be a friend. And she leaves in this awesome superhero pose, like Todd McFarlane style, jumping down from the roof. I'm going to pull that up over here. And she goes home, and not a couple of pages or panels later, Mark knocks on the door without his mask, and is holding a VHS tape and proceeds to say that, I am sorry, I'm wrong, I do this to people all the time, you're one of the people that appreciate me and I don't want to have to do this to you. I understand it's difficult to be friends with me, and if you don't want to have anything to do with me, I understand that too, but I needed to do this to apologize to you because this is what you deserve and this is what a good person would do to one of their friends. And Tigra embraces him almost immediately, and takes him back and kisses him even, and then makes a short joke to his kid that she thinks that this is her boyfriend again. Yeah. And then the issue ends, and the next page after that is a cover page for the next issue, which is Venom. So that should be a cool crossover. One of the best crossover team-up characters at Marvel. Yeah.
Him and Spider-Man.
Relatively a blank slate, so you can almost do whatever you want with Venom.
And again,
if it's
Venom is he's a monster of the night. That's a lot of Moon Knight's domain. It's perfect fit.
Yeah, really good. So, outside of the summary, the things that I want to mention is Rochelle Rosenberg's colors. Mm-hmm. Rochelle Rosenberg's colors, maybe 50% of the art, and it's carrying so much weight. As soon as you're in the apartment of Tigra, her windows are yellow and green.
And this is a Tigra issue instead of a Moon Knight issue. And we've been dealing in these cool blues and whites to the cityscape. Yeah. This issue, it's a lot more colorful. We light in a lot more of Tigra's colors into the environment. Yeah,
almost exclusively throughout the entire issue, up to including the lettering for the narration that she's doing, is also her colors. And they keep this consistent through the whole issue, up to and including the ambiance and the city in the background are a fluorescent green and yellow that you wouldn't even notice unless you had the foresight to keep an eye on the art in this book, as me and Chris have, enjoying it for such a long time. So I'm really impressed by the colors that she lays out. It's adding so much to the book.
And synergistically with Cappuccio's pencils, too, there's a lot of great faces in this issue, really showing good emotion.
Yeah, I got strong figures here, strong faces, readability's amazing, amazing creative color usage, and great backgrounds. Yep. All of this is this is what happens when you get a team that is working off of each other's strengths, knows exactly what each of the team members can do. You don't get comics like this all the time, or rarely even. So to see them put together such strong images with great colors and amazing writing and progressing the plot and strong poses, this feels like a mastered comic, maybe even a perfect issue of Moon Knight. 4 pages into this, I was like, oh no, this is going to be a Tigra issue? Because I'm not a Tigra fan. She doesn't have a Tigra book out. All that I know of Tigra is from West Coast Avengers issues that I've read of Moon Knight. Yeah. So, it's like, have to read a Tigra issue, this might be a serious downside. It wasn't. It was such a nice break from the norm of what Moon Knight is. And it gave the team an opportunity to show their craft and their ability outside of the form of just Moon Knight.
Yeah.
While still keeping that consistent in the background. There were a lot of shots of like the moon and stuff like that. Most of her research is done at night.
Yeah.
She's a mother during the day, so that totally tracks.
And again, while this is a Tigra book, it's still focused on Moon Knight. Moon Knight is the character who grows in this issue, and Moon Knight is the character that like we're dealing with for the most part. So it's not a total departure; it's just a change in narrative, and it's really refreshing to read.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts is the part where she breaks down in front of Moon Knight on the roof after she confronts Midnight Man, Mark Spector.
Yeah.
And she talks about how she was married to Hank Pym, or in love with Hank Pym in a relationship, and they had this kid, but then she found out that Hank Pym had been taken over by a Skrull, had been killed, I think, by that Skrull maybe even, and the Skrull was the one who's actually responsible for the kid, is the father of the child.
Right.
And she's been lying to her kid throughout the kid's whole life that the actual father is Hank Pym, which is not at all the case. I don't know that Skrull doesn't copy people down to DNA, so there's a possibility that it was still theoretically Hank Pym's kid.
At least his DNA.
But what is for sure is this Skrull, in some form or another, raped Tigra as using another, person as who they are, and then that rape produced a child in Tigra's life that she now has to raise and love, but is always going to remind her of a terrible portion of her life.
Yeah.
And that portion was a Marvel event named Invasion, which finally lets me know that these Marvel events really affect some of the Marvel characters super negatively.
Yeah.
They have to walk away from these things and be okay with their lives. Meanwhile, this is crazy, bombastic science fiction that's going to ruin everybody on the planet's life. Tigra's might be the first person that I've seen that really is. She's going to live the rest of her life
Haunted by what's happened.
Haunted by Invasion, the Marvel event.
Yeah.
So the comic books we're reading are apparently destroying the lives of the characters that we're reading about. If you read Spider-Man, that's no surprise.
Yeah.
One of the other things that gets mentioned is the things that she's done for Moon Knight so far through these 22 issues. And it's 3 specific things. They fought an entire vampire conclave together. They went to the Tomb Dimension, which is some, for lack of a better word, Phantom Road-ish area.
Place between places.
Yeah, place between places where maybe in the realm of Khonshu or something,
yeah.
where Moon Knights go to die. She also mentions that she had to fight an army of zombie Moon Knights. She's done all these things for Mark, and Mark is still using her as a tool throughout the entirety of the run, at least until the end of this issue. Mark's not a good guy, or if he is a good guy, he's a good guy who's always trying to be a good guy, because he has such a strong background in doing bad things, being a military man, or rather not even military, a mercenary man for so many years, and then just being mentally screwed up and stuff of that nature. I can understand where it's difficult for him to keep up relationships and stuff like that. So it's amazing to see that Tigra even gives him the time of day once, twice, and then 3 times again at the end of this issue. At the end, when he goes to apologize to Tigra, he's bringing a VHS tape with him. It's a VHS tape copy of Time Bandits. At the beginning of the issue, he makes fun of Tigra for watching VHSs. The cover of this Time Bandits looks like the cover of what would be a recorded off of cable version of Time Bandits, right. Implying that you don't buy recorded versions of cable airings of movies. If you're going to buy a VHS tape, it's going to be the actual VHS tape. This is going to imply that Mark has it's a really subtle thing in the art, but totally implies that Mark Spector, or one of his personalities, has a complete collection of VHS tapes of their own that they're holding on to.
Yeah.
He's a fan of Time Bandits, so that's the one he brings over. For those that don't know, Time Bandits was directed by Terry Gilliam, who's done Thailand and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and is responsible for all of the filming of Monty Python, a lot of the cinematography, and some of the funnier stuff.
Yeah.
Guy's got a long history, and so I guess Moon Knight's a Terry Gilliam fan of some
And again, Tigra shows her kid VHS tapes to share part of her childhood. Here's Mark bringing presumably part of his childhood too. I have to imagine he recorded this as a kid, maybe a late teen, but he's bringing over something personal, so showing his growth a little bit.
Time Bandits came out in the late 90s or something, so yeah. He might just be a Terry Gilliam fan that picked it up.
Maybe. Also, Marvel's such a sliding timeline, you have no idea, when do they think Mark was a kid anymore?
Yeah, no idea. The art was amazing. That's really what carried. Jed McKay's an amazing writer, but this particular issue, since it was a Tigre issue, what really carried it forward and got me interested was the art, the colors, and how strong this team has built their relationships with each other over the course of 22 issues. I don't know that I can name another book that has a creative team this strong in Marvel or DC.
And especially not one that's consistent. Like, I love Zdarsky Jimenez.
Yeah.
Zdarsky Giacchetto. Those aren't as consistent as McKay Cappuccio. I feel like every other issue of one of those books, the main artist is off. There's a fill-in artist for whole arcs. This is mainly Cappuccio McKay, pretty consistently.
Yeah, and I'd argue too that Zdarsky and Giacchetto have a really good thing going on, but I think Jed McKay and his team have an even better thing.
I would agree. And again, we're talking the main two, but Rosenberg is just as synergistic with Cappuccio. I don't think Giacchetto's colorists bring as much as Rosenberg is to this book.
No,
I like Giacchetto's colorists, but they're not as strong as Rochelle Rosenberg.
And I'd say that Moon Knight has more of an opportunity in its art to do some like versatile things, whereas Daredevil is really a comic book character, street level character. You know, the mysticism they're even doing in Daredevil is a break from the norm in that comic book. Whereas Moon Knight's been in space. Daredevil's been to Asgard. But, like, Moon Knight, you can do anything with Moon Knight because of the multiple...
He's a street-level cosmic character because of his relationship to his god. So there's all this wild imagery that you can do with Moon Knight, but at the end of the day, he's a grounded street-level character as well. He can fight He can fight all the Avengers. The last story he's in, this missionary, the next story he's in.
It's pretty
He's
impressive.
very versatile.
And the creative team is definitely using it to that advantage. You got anything to add here, Chris?
No.
Stay tuned for our next issue of Shonen Jump. It's going to be the April 2003 issue. Should be up sometime next week. In addition to that, I got an honorable mention for Noctera by Scott Snyder and Tony S. Daniel. Read that if you're into Scott Snyder stuff. It's good.
I'll throw in at The Flash. I've really been enjoying what Jeremy Adams has been doing. His run's about to end. He has finished his big story.
1 Minute War, right?
Yeah. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Some good Flash comics. I love Wally West, so he's been doing that, It's good stuff. Take it out if you like Flash.
And I think that about wraps us up.
Yeah, have a good day.
Take care. See you next episode.